He lived 2 houses down from me, and every October, like a cursed seasonal tradition, Carl made it his personal crusade to ruin Halloween for the rest of us. Picture the guy who calls the cops when kids play too loudly outside, or writes passive-aggressive notes about your recycling bin being half an inch out of place. That was Carl, but crank it up to 11 and sprinkle in a deep loathing for anything remotely fun. He wasn't just indifferent to Halloween, he despised it. Every year he'd post the same giant homemade sign on his lawn in wobbly Sharpie marker, "No Halloween, keep your evil away, private property." Classy, right? Most people would roll their eyes and leave it at that. But not Carl. No, Carl took it a step further. He became the self-appointed Halloween exorcist of our street. Decorations would go up in early October, and within days they'd start disappearing or getting wrecked. Tombstones snapped in half, lights cut, cobwebs torn down, inflatable ghosts punctured and tossed like deflated beach balls. And the worst part? He was good at it. He never left evidence behind. No footprints, no fingerprints. Just an eerie trail of destruction and smug silence. I knew it was him. Everyone knew. But unless you caught him in the act, the HOA wouldn't do a thing. I tried reporting him 3 years in a row. They said they didn't have jurisdiction over holiday disputes, which is corporate speak for, "we don't want to get involved." One year, I even installed a ring cam. Thought I was clever. I came out one morning to find the camera still there, but turned ever so slightly to face the wall. Decorations gone, motion log empty. He was like a Halloween ghost with a vendetta. By the 4th year, I'd had enough. I wasn't just annoyed anymore. I was invested in revenge. So I made a plan. A good one. Not just a scare or a prank, something more theatrical. I wanted to make him feel what it was like to be stalked in the shadows, to walk into what he thought was an easy target and find himself in a haunted hellscape designed with his name on it. I called my buddy Derek. He's a genius with electronics, built his own drone in college, coded a doorbell system that reads facial expressions. I told him what I had in mind. He grinned and said, "Oh, it's on." We got to work. We spent a full month building it. I played it cool on the outside, didn't decorate, didn't mention Halloween, just mowed my lawn and waved at neighbors. Carl must have thought he'd finally broken me. Inside, though? Inside, I was building a house of horrors with a very specific audience in mind. We started by designing a custom rig using motion sensors, pressure plates, and a Raspberry Pi controller. The idea was to trigger different effects depending on exactly where someone stepped. We mapped out my entire front yard like a minefield of spooky surprises. Fog machines, directional speakers, strobe lights, and even a spring-loaded animatronic dummy we affectionately named Scarecrow Steve. Steve was the centerpiece. We dressed him in tattered flannel and a burlap mask, stuffed his limbs with flexible wiring, and mounted him on a servo-motor rig buried in the mulch. He looked harmless during the day, just a limp decoration. But when triggered, his head turned, arms twitched, and his eyes glowed blood red. We even gave him a voice. Every piece was designed for maximum terror with minimum visibility. Wires were hidden, fog machines disguised as flower pots, cameras dressed up as solar lights. It looked like a normal, undecorated lawn, because I wanted Carl to think I had finally given up. October 31st came. The street was full of kids in costumes, neighbors laughing, lights twinkling on every porch, except mine. Mine stayed dark and silent. I handed out candy in a hoodie and avoided attention. Kept my lawn bare, save for Steve, slumped and unlit. Carl walked by earlier in the evening and smirked like he'd won. But the real show started after midnight. I stayed up with Derek, monitoring the setup from inside. We had 5 infrared cameras feeding into a laptop, along with a live control panel to adjust triggers if we wanted to. We sat in the dark, drinking coffee and whispering like kids on a stakeout. At 1:37 a.m., movement. There he was. Carl, dressed in his usual hoodie and jeans, carrying a trash bag and wearing gloves. Flashlight in hand, the lens covered with red film to avoid detection. He approached the lawn like he'd done it 100 times. Casual, arrogant. He stepped onto the mulch. Click, the system armed. The first trigger was audio. Barely audible whispers piped through tiny speakers hidden in the bushes, aimed right at his ears. "Carl, I see you." He froze, turned, Looked around. Nothing. No lights. Just the faint hiss of fog slowly beginning to seep across the ground. He moved closer to the scarecrow, flashlight darting. The second trigger activated. Steve's head turned. Just a little. One smooth motion. Carl stepped back, eyes locked on the scarecrow. Then Steve's eyes lit up red, and the voice kicked in. "You've come again, but this time I've been waiting." Carl jumped back and stepped right on the pressure plate. Cue full effect. A massive burst of fog, the porch lights flickering like a lightning storm, and a blood-curdling scream from the directional speaker. Then, from the tree above, a figure dropped. A dummy on a pulley system, flailing wildly as it descended behind him with a loud mechanical screech. Carl screamed like a kid in a haunted house. He dropped the trash bag and ran, tripped over the sidewalk, hit his shoulder on the mailbox post, and fell flat on his back. Then he scrambled to his feet and sprinted home, one shoe missing. Derek and I lost it. We laughed until we cried. The whole thing was caught from 5 different angles. HD video, night vision, crystal clear sound. It was beautiful. The next morning, I uploaded the footage to our neighborhood Facebook group with a caption, "To the person who's been destroying Halloween decorations for years, consider this your last trick. Happy Halloween." Within hours, the video blew up. Not just in our neighborhood. Local news picked it up. One of the reporters even called it a suburban scream trap worthy of Hollywood. Parents started commenting about how Carl had ruined their kids' Halloween displays. One woman said her 10-year-old cried after someone ripped apart their inflatable pumpkin. Another neighbor admitted Carl had called their decorations inviting demons. The HOA, suddenly very interested, issued Carl a formal warning. Not for vandalism, they still claimed there wasn't legal proof, but for behavior unbecoming of a community member. Whatever that means. Carl didn't show his face for weeks. When he finally did, he walked with his head down and avoided eye contact. His Halloween sign didn't go up this year. His house stayed dark. But mine? Oh, mine is lit up like a Tim Burton fever dream. Skeletons line the walkway. A zombie choir groans from the bushes. Kids stop by just to watch Steve come to life when they get close. He's become a neighborhood legend. And Carl? Carl hasn't dared step foot on my lawn again, but just in case. Steve's still watching, waiting.